Good morning. This is Bob Lovinger, and I'm going to present to you today the introduction to the BCMS Check 180 financing program. Thank you for joining me. So, we're not really about products. What we really are about is solutions. So, the big question is, why should businesses incorporate Check 180 financing into their everyday business activities? What is the problem that we're trying to solve? And in a nutshell, since the recession hit in 2007, 2008, 60% of people now have either bad credit, no credit, or they are maxed out on existing credit. And because of that, businesses that sell products or services from anything from a few $100s to thousands of dollars, that major decision type of purchase, are losing customers really every day because they simply can't afford to buy from them. And what's happened is many of these businesses have just adjusted. Whatever level they were producing in 2008, that's history. So now they're looking at a different reality. But the fact of the matter is, there's a whole potential customer base that's out there that want to do business with them that just simply just can't because they've been disenfranchised by the traditional credit system. So, in other words, they no longer have that credit card like they did 5 years ago to come in and make that major purchase. They don't have the money in the bank. Maybe they hit a rough spot and they were unemployed, or their income was down, and so now they have some money in the bank, but they don't necessarily want to deplete their savings of all the money to make that purchase. Um, um, or they just simply, their credit score now is no longer good enough for them to get a traditional financing. So those businesses that do offer financing, like in the health field, Care Credit is a big player there. That's by GE Capital. The thing with Care Credit is looking for credit scores of between 680 and 700 or higher. So anybody that falls below that is considered subprime by Care Credit, and they'll either be turned down or be approved for less money than they're asking for. So GE Capital's published approval rating with Care Credit is about 35%. So 65% of people out there are not getting approved for the financing that they want to make that major purchase. So this is a huge problem, and the question really is, are businesses always aware of it? And I'm going to talk a little bit about that afterwards. So it's a problem, but they may not be aware of to the extent of this problem and what it's costing them in business. So what is the solution? The solution is Check 180 financing in many cases. So what is Check 180 financing? It's an alternative in-house payment option that provides prospective customers who otherwise can't buy because they don't have the cash, available credit, or are unable to get approved for conventional financing options, non-credit based financing. Now, this is not financing in the truest sense of the word. It's really another way of making payments. So think about, in the days before credit cards, before a consumer can walk into a business and throw down a credit card and make that major purchase. Businesses had to rely on cash, on layaway, different, taking checks, post-dated checks sometimes. Credit cards just really created a bridge between the business and between consumers, and that's really what Check 180 financing is, and we're really in on the on the on the beginning stages of that. So think about in the early days of credit cards, when only maybe a few people had credit cards and businesses were trying to make that decision. Do I start taking credit cards? Is that marketplace big enough that's going to make an impact for me? And eventually it snowballed, and merchants had to do it because otherwise they were losing out. The same thing is happening here. Businesses now are trying to figure out, is this marketplace big enough for us to take in this financing or this payment plan option? Are there enough people that fall into this category to make it worth our while? And I think they're finding out, yes, that that is the case. What makes Check 180 financing different than traditional financing is that Consumers are judged on their current ability to pay, not their credit score. Credit scores rate their past behaviors. So, don't get me wrong. The lenders that are involved in Check 180 financing, whether it's a no income check or whether it's a no credit check or whether it's a limited of each or whatever, they're not looking for defaults. They're not looking for, to take on consumers that are not going to pay them. They just look at these consumers a little bit differently. They're not judging them on what happened a year ago or 6 months ago. They want to know, is this individual capable of making the payments that we're about to put on them now? Are they capable of it? I don't care. They may have had a foreclosure a year ago, but that doesn't talk about what their current situation is. So Check 180 financing really is an advanced way of looking at a consumer, and it's all tied into their checking account. Now, consumers that don't have checking accounts cannot get approved for Check 180 financing. We may have other programs down the road that will address those individuals, but the prerequisite for someone to get Check 180 financing products is they have to have a checking account. That checking account has to be in good standing, and they can have recent bounces, and depending on the lender, which I'll go over in a bit, it's between 30 and 90 days where we're looking at. And there's other criteria as well, but those are the basic criteria. So they have to have a checking account in good standing in order to be approved for Check 180 financing. So here's a summary of what Check 180 financing is and what it can do for businesses. With Check 180 financing, businesses are able to sell more people that contact the business. So it's those people that would normally come in, normally walk through the doors, or normally call up. By introducing the concept of Check 180 financing, you're just giving them another way to pay, and you're going to get more sales because, remember, a lot of people out there are incapable of making payments the traditional way. They may have a little bit of resources, to make that smaller purchase, but they can't make that larger purchase. So what Check 180 financing is, it really brings them out of it really brings them in and gives them an option. It will draw more people to the business through advertising and marketing. Now think about what's happened since the recession. A lot of these people are not coming into a business because they've already been turned down by traditional financing. So, think about this. Someone, their car just breaks down. They know they don't have a lot of money in the bank, and they really don't want to deplete it if they don't have to. They don't have a credit card, or at least a credit card that can support a $500 or $1,000 potential of repair, and they know they've already been turned down in the past by a traditional financing. These consumers are stuck. They don't know what to do. Do they borrow money from their friends and families? Do they go in and plead with an auto repair shop to offer them in-house financing, which some of them do, by the way, and this is just another reason why they should take on Check 180 financing. Or do they not do anything at all? I mean, and make do. If a business reaches out into their community by putting in their advertising that they have what we call it, depending on the program, no credit check, payment options, or no income check payment options, or flexible payment options, it will tell these people that they have something different. So if you're a consumer and you fall into this category, now you're no longer looking at, all right, if there's 10 repair shops in my immediate area, I have to make a decision between 1 and 10. If there's one that's offering Check 180 financing, now you know who you're dealing with, because you're dealing with that one business that's geared to deal with your situation. It can offer alternatives to customers that get turned down when they apply for conventional financing. Now, the great thing about Check 180 financing is we're not looking to replace Care Credit or GE or Wells Fargo or Chase or Citibank. We're looking to supplement them. So the businesses that already offer that kind of financing, if you go to a dentist and they offer Care Credit, let them continue to use Care Credit. We're looking for those 65% of the people that have been turned down by Care Credit, and we're going to approve a good percentage, maybe 50 or 60% of those people. So, we're not looking to replace Care Credit, because you know what? Care Credit may be a better alternative than Check 180 financing for these consumers. It does offer some options, but we're looking to be the resource for those people that just can't get approved for 180 for the traditional financing. So, and the other thing that we can do is we can supplement the traditional financing. So if they have a consumer who's gotten approved by Care Credit but just hasn't gotten enough money, or maybe has a credit card but just doesn't have enough on the credit card, we can step in and close that gap. So that's another reason for a business to incorporate Check 180 financing. We'll help recover lost revenue on customers that owe them money by offering them a structured payment plan. A few weeks ago, I signed up a dentist, and one of the main reasons this dentist signed up was he had $300,000 of accounts receivable. These were former patients that owe them money that haven't paid yet. Now, these aren't deadbeat people. These just are people that haven't paid them and haven't gotten around to setting up a payment structure. This dentist has started the process of using our program to reach out to these former patients and offer them a structured payment option. Come in, get approved for the financing, and then we'll be set. What it also does for the businesses, it brings them back their former patients or customers. Because think about it, for that dentist, those patients that owe them money, chances are they're not coming back in for treatment. They know they already owe this dentist money. Why would they come back just to aggravate the situation? They're going to try to find a different dentist that they don't owe money to. So this helps them keep their current patient base, or bring in patients that they have lost. And also will help businesses stop losing revenue on customers that buy less than they want or need because they lack the funds to complete the sale. Think about an auto repair situation. You drive your car in and it's making noises, or maybe it's stopped working, or whatever, and the repairman looks at the car, comes out with a laundry list of things, and you have limited resources. So the first question as a customer you're going to ask is, what do I need to do to my car just to keep it on the road? you know don't tell me the things that are may come up down later on, or things that are iffy. I just want to know what I need to do now to make my car usable. So what Check 180 financing will do is, since it's a structured payment plan, it allows the customer to incorporate um, all the repairs that they need to be done, instead of leaving some there and maybe driving around a car that's not as safe as they would like. It allows them to do it all, because now they're going to be able to pay it out over time. So Check 180 financing will help businesses realize that lost revenue, or even allow them to upsell to things that the customer really wants to buy. So it serves that purpose as well. Okay, so just to highlight what Check 180 financing is, it's really two core lenders that make up Check 180 financing, and I'm going to give you the summary of what those two lenders offer. Basically, customer financing amounts from a few $100s up to $5,000 or sometimes more. And I'll go over in more detail how to determine where the lending limits are. Payment terms of 3, 6, or 12 months to the customer. No income check and non-credit based products. There's no discount. So in other words, the way it's structured, the business receives 100% of their sale amount within approximately 72 hours. So think about this. A Check 180 financing product is actually um, less costly to a business than even a credit card transaction, because a credit card transaction will have a fee associated with that comes off the sale. With the way the Check 180 financing works, there are fees, but all the fees are passed on to the customer. At least that's the way it can be done. Um, there's no recourse to the business for non-payment. Similarly to credit card transactions, there can be recourse if there's fraud, or if there's a customer dispute. Same thing with a credit card. If someone wants to charge back, they can do it through with Check 180 financing as well, but it's not normal. So for simple non-payment, this the merchant is safe, they keep their money, everything is okay. If there's a customer dispute, just like with credit cards, the lenders will take a step back and take a look at the situation. There's affordable rates and payments for customers. Now, it's not free money and it's not necessarily cheap money, but it is comparable to what they would get with other traditional financing options, as well as what they would pay using a credit card. So, these programs are intended to be affordable. It's not like payday loans where you're going to pay 300% or something like that. It's not like that at all. There's a high approval rating with decisions usually in a matter of minutes. Now, it doesn't approve everyone. Remember, there is a risk factor that's taken into account. So some consumers will not be able to get approved for Check 180 financing. And really, the percentage of what the approvals are depend on the demographic of the business, who's their customer, is it young, is it old? Because, for instance, if they're dealing only with 20 and 21-year-olds, chances are their checking account may not be as strong as someone that's 50 years old, theoretically. Um, so there's a lot of factors that go into it, but it's a high approval rating considering the type of customer that they typically get for this program. So there's two lenders, as I mentioned before, but we break it down into four different program options as far as the merchant is concerned. Okay, you have the Silver plan, which is the Global Check ArcNet 90. That's a no credit check web-based program. So everything is done online and also faxing of documents, but I'll go over that in a bit. You have the Gold plan, which is the Global Check ARC 90. It's a no credit check program, with the Silver and the Gold, they don't even ask for social security numbers, so there's no credit check involved whatsoever. And there's equipment required for the Gold program. So similar to a credit card terminal, there's also a check reader, a check imager. So there's some equipment that's required for the Gold program. The Platinum program, which is the SPS Payday Express Plus program, which is a no income check, a non-credit score based program with also equipment required. And then there's a Platinum Plus plan, which basically just combines the Gold plan and the Platinum plan, puts it all on one equipment, and gives the lender two opportunities to get somebody approved with. So, these are the four different ways we package the programs for you. So here's a rundown of the Silver program. Okay, it's an in-house payment option for sales up to $10,000. Now, this since this is an income check based program, theoretically the sale can be anything that the income can support. You're not going to see sales of $10,000 because if somebody makes the kind of income required to get approved for $10,000, they probably don't need this program. So, the typical sales will be anywhere from a few $100s to probably 1,500 or 2,000. Now, with the Silver plan, the merchant can receive up to $1,500 of the sale up front if the customer is approved for what's called fast track. So there's two parts of the approval process. One is a G code, which is a guarantee, which means the lender is saying, okay, this customer is good enough. We're going to guarantee this money to the merchant, and they'll get it as the payments are being made. So it's not subject to the payments clearing, but they'll get it as the due dates come about. So which is every week or every 2 weeks. But then the merchant can get a fast track approval on this customer, which means, okay, the lender is going to approve this customer for fast track, which means they'll get up to the merchant will get up to $1,500 of that money right away. And if the ticket is more than $1,500, whatever the balance is, they'll have to wait for the payments, for the time of the payments. But with this program, they can get up to $1,500 of their money advanced. The rest is, you know, built into the payment plan. The terms to the customer can be either 90 days, which is 3 months, or 180 days, which is 6 months. And as I mentioned, the payments are usually made weekly or bi-weekly. Now, with this program and also with the other program, there's no collection of the payments. The money automatically comes out of the customer's checking account. That's why they look at the checking account. So the customer doesn't have to do anything, including the first payment which takes place within a day or two of the sale. All the money comes out of the customer's checking account. The the down payment at the time of approval is between 10% and 20% of the total sale. Now, when I say it's due at the time of approval, it's what's going to be approved, but once again, the business doesn't have to collect that money. That money will come automatically out of the checking account. Now, for the customer to get approved for this program, that down payment money has to be in the checking account already. It can't be they're putting it in tomorrow. The merchant has to wait until that money is there in order to get the approval. If the money is not there, that's one of the things that the lender looks at. They'll turn them down because they don't have the money. With this program, the entire sale must be financed. That means it can't be a split transaction. It's got to be, if whatever the ticket is, that's what the financing amount has to be. So, this is going to be a difference between this program, the gold program, and the platinum program. The platinum program, the finance could be any part of the ticket. With this program, it's got to be the entire ticket. The application is submitted via the internet, like I said, and support documentation is faxed or uploaded to complete the approval. So the first step is the lender approves the applicant based on the information that's been provided, income information, checking account, that kind of thing. Then the pay stub, the bank statement, the application has to be submitted, and then the lender looks at it, and then that's when they give the final approval. The business receives 100% of their invoice, no discount, up to the $1,500 limit within 3 to 5 business days of sale, if the applicant is approved for Fast Track. If they're not approved for Fast Track, they're going to get that deposit payment within 3 to 5 days, and then they'll get paid every week or every 2 weeks after that. Most of the businesses will want to get the Fast Track approval. It doesn't mean that they won't accept it otherwise, because it's still a good sale for them. If they can get the guarantee money and know the money is coming, they may still choose to do it. It's cash flow for them, and it's another sale that they wouldn't otherwise have made, which is important to think about. Anybody that's going for these programs, for the Check 180 financing, these are people that they otherwise would not have been able to sell their product or service to. So they have to look at this as incremental business. It's not their core business. It's that extra business. That extra business can be significant. It can be 10%, 20% of their total business, but it's going to be customers they otherwise wouldn't have been able to sell to. And with this program, approvals usually take no more than 60 minutes. The initial approval for the guarantee will be a matter of a minute or so, but it's the Fast Track and the actual checking of the documentation that may require the extra time, and usually need between 30 and 60 minutes for that. The requirements on the customer side: one pay stub is required, and the merchant has to be able to check on the income, know how to read the pay stub, and enter it properly. The deposit check, which checks the checking account, has to be in good standing with no bounces in the past 30 days. Must have the initial deposit money in the bank at the time of approval, and the customer must submit the most recent bank statement, and the merchant has to look at that to make sure there's no insufficient funds or overdrafts on that statement. And they're also going to ask for a valid ID, so in most cases a driver's license. So this is the silver plan on the Check 180 financing. The gold plan is the same lender and basically the exact same program, except for two things. This is not an internet web-based program, it's a terminal-based program, which means that the customer information is still entered online. The calculators are used to see whether the customer qualifies or not, but then the documents are scanned in through the terminal and a check reader to upload to the lender. And then the other difference is, with this program, the merchant can receive up to $2,500 of their sale up front instead of $1,500. So everything else is exactly the same between this program and the silver program. Now, one thing I didn't mention: with both programs, the cost to the customer is 9% of the sale plus $35 fee. So just to use a round number, if it's a $1,000 sale, it would be $90, which is 9%, and 35, so it'll be $1,125 for that $1,000 sale. So the customer would have to pay back $1,125 either over the course of 3 months or 6 months. So that's the way the silver and the gold plan work. The programs are good. I mean, a lot of people are going to be disqualified because of the income criteria, and there's, and the income is loose. It's not like a mortgage. It doesn't require a huge amount of income, but it does require an income check and a certain kind of income. So, one of the idiosyncrasies of this program, for instance, is that the lender for fast track will not accept entitlement money. So Social Security, disability, that kind of money, they will not accept it for fast track. They'll still guarantee it, but they won't accept it to do fast track. Also, they take the gross income and they don't deduct the regular taxes that come out, but they will deduct extra deductions, like if somebody's being garnished, or even if they have a 401k coming out, they'll take that off the top. So the gross income has to be calculated a certain way in order to figure out whether the person qualifies or not. And there's other situations as well, but this is the one lenders, the silver and the gold program. Okay. So, what does it cost the merchant for the silver and gold program? So, the silver program is a one-time setup fee. Now, check your rate sheets, to see what the costs are. If you're a team leader, you should have the rate sheets, and you should determine your own pricing, or go with the suggested retail pricing. But the pricing will vary depending on what your needs are and what you want to make. Um, so the silver, it's easy. There's a one-time setup fee. Um, and with the gold program, there's a one-time setup fee, which also includes the cost of equipment, or a pay-as-you-go option. Now, the way the pay-as-you-go option works is the merchant can try it out for 3 months at $195, and then if they decide to continue on a month-to-month basis, they pay $45 a month starting in month 4. They can also convert to the purchase with the one-time setup fee, and $100 of that $195 will be applied towards the setup. So once again, check your pricing. If you're a team leader, the suggested pricing sheets are in the back office in the resource center. Otherwise, like I said, you can set up your own pricing for the most part. In addition, the merchant pays $10 per month statement fee, and a 15 per month minimum usage fee. So that means if they don't do any sales at all, if they don't do any financing at all, the minimum they're going to pay is $15 towards that fee. Now, um, part of the sale process, in order to sell a merchant on these programs, whether it's the silver, gold, platinum plus, you have to get them to envision that they're going to be using this program. So, usually if you've reached the point where you're talking about the money, and you've convinced them on the need, the minimum usage fee is not going to play a big role, because they see the demand. I mean, they can see that this is going to mean something to their business. So, once again, I mean, and this is less significant of a usage fee, but you'll see a larger usage fee when I start talking about the platinum program. But for now, this is what the costs are, and it's not that significant, and hopefully they'll do at least one sale amount a month. So here's your process for getting a merchant approved for the silver and the gold plan. You complete there's a one-page merchant application. It's very simple. There's also a merchant survey form. All of these forms, by the way, are in the back office. Let me show you. Let me show you where that is now. Hold on. Okay, show you where that is. So before I go on, I'll show you. So if you're a team leader, or if you may have access to this. This is the Check 180 financing back office. As you can see, it's pretty robust. And starting here is where all the documents you'll need for the Check 180 financing. As you can see, they've done a great job of putting together all the documentation. So we're talking about now the silver and the gold, so that would be under the global check program, and these are the agreements, and everything you need to do this program from the standpoint of applications and agreements is back here, including your marketing materials. As you can see, there's flyers back here, brochures, there's a lot of good stuff. So I just wanted to show you this just to know, just so you can see where you have to look to find all your documents. So I'm not going to necessarily show you all the documents that and the collateral material that's available to you, but you know where to find them. So if you don't know where to find them, check with me after this, or check with the home office, and they'll give you your login information, or check with your team leader. Okay, so you complete the merchant survey form, which is also another simple form. You collect the setup fee or complete the lease application. Leases are also available once again, with this program. You collect the business owner's photo ID, usually a driver's license, one proof of them being in business license, article of incorporation, that kind of thing, and a voided business check. And you submit the package to the BCMS processing center. Most of you will probably be dealing with Vicky, so you submit it to Vicky, and she'll put this through, package everything and get it over to the lender for approval. And the merchant usually can get approved within about 24 hours with Global Check. So it's a very fast approval process. And as you will see, there's two different philosophies in dealing with merchants and consumers when it comes to Global Check and SPS, who's the other lender. But the approval usually takes no longer than 24 hours, and once we have the approval, if there's equipment involved, we'll ship the equipment either to you or to the merchant for the setup, and they should be up and running within a few days. So this program is really streamlined to get them up and running very, very quickly. Now, I just want to show you this because this is very important. So from the standpoint of what the merchant sees, Global Check makes available a demo account, and I'm going to show you that right now. Okay, so the first thing you'll do is when to reach the demo account is you go to globalcheck.com, and then make a notation of this. This is the user ID and the password you'll need in order to reach the demo account. So I'll give you a second to write that down. It's www.globalcheck.com. The user ID is 14465286, and the password is BCMS180. So you write that down. Go to www.globalcheck.com, and then you'll be able to log in, and this is what you'll get. This is basically what a new business will see after they sign up. And the thing with Global Check is they do a very nice job of putting together a lot of support material. So, everything that's here, there's a little video or an audio that goes over everything. They have some nice collateral material here. Price tags that can be printed out for stores that sell retail furniture stores or things like that. Pre-qualification, online customer pre-qualification forms that can be put on the website. But if a merchant was at the point where they're putting a sale through, the first thing they would do is, and there's three different ways for a merchant to put a sale through. So this is for a merchant assuming that they have the gold program, not the silver program. The silver, they would see something a little bit different, but assuming they have the gold, there's three different ways they can put a sale through. One is using the equipment. One is without checks at all. They have to have a checking account, but they may not have a check. So there's a way for them to do it with a bank authorization without checks. And another way to do it is just to send Global Check the application package and let them do the approval without using the equipment. But for the purposes of what I'm trying to show you here, I'm going to assume that the merchant is going to do it the conventional way, which is using their equipment. So they click on the first box up there. And they get the payment calculator. So normally you could change this amount, but Global Check doesn't allow us to do it for the demo account. So the sale, let's assume it's $1,000 sale. We have no choice. Let's assume that the consumer wants to do the 6-month plan and the bi-weekly payments. And for the fast track, the rule of thumb has to be that the payments have to match the pay stub, the way the person gets paid. So let's assume most people these days get paid bi-weekly. We're going to assume that the merchant wants to add the plan fees onto the financing. Now, they can do it the other way around too. They could absorb the cost. And let's say there's a mattress store and they're selling mattresses, and rather than have to say that there's a charge for this financing, they may want to just, instead of offering a sale, they may, for the financing amount, they may just want to absorb the cost of the financing. But for the sake of this demo, let's assume that they don't want to absorb it. They're going to pass it on to the consumer. And let's assume also that they want to do a fast track, which means they want all their money up front. So as you can see, it comes up that there's two required monthly income amounts. One is for the standard and one is for the fast track. Now, these dollar amounts are not necessarily accurate. Global Check has a thing about not putting all the accurate information onto the demo account. They just want to give you an idea. And also, the algorithm is very, very complex, allegedly, and that they actually take into account cost of living. So, somebody applying for fast track, for this program in Idaho, won't have to make as much money as someone applying for this program that lives in Los Angeles. So, just to give you an idea. So, they give you a checklist of the three things that are most important to get the approval. So, is income at least the required amount? So, are you going for fast track? Is this person making at least $1,755 per month? So, let's say yes. You're looking at the bank statement. Are there no NSFs or overdrawn activity on that bank statement? Okay, that's yes. And is the balance does the balance stay above $70.55? So, you look at the bank statement during any day, did the balance ever go below $70.55? If the answer is no, it's not necessarily a turn down. It may affect the fast track approval. So if the answer is, yes, if the answer is that yes, the balance did fall below $70.55, there's a chance they may not get approved for fast track. So, the merchant will have to, if it's strong otherwise, they still may get it, but there's a chance they may not get approved for fast track. And then what the merchant would do, as you can see down here, it already sets up the plan. So the down payment is $196.85. That's the first payment that will come out of the consumer's bank account within a day or so. So the business never has to actually deposit that first check, but this is the amount of the first payment. And then you'll see that the way they do it, they trickle down the payment, so it starts off higher and then ends up lower. And this gives you the full plan and the actual dates of when the money will come out. So it gives you a pretty thorough idea. Then the merchant will click submit the payment plan, and the approval, it will come up either G code or V code. V code means it's not guaranteed that Global Check will still do the payment plan, but the merchant will only get the money if the payment clears through. So they're looking for at this point a G code. So this is the way the demo account works. And as I pointed out before, there's a lot of good information on this demo account, and I suggest that you go in there and you play around and hit all these little links. What is my profit? Because it gives you a lot of information on how the program works and how to present the merchant as well. So it's just a great resource for you, and it's also, once you become familiar with it, you may want to use it as a selling tool to show the merchant what it is they get. And this thing can be customized, so the merchant logo can be up here. They actually give a video that they can put on their website, a customized video. So there's a lot of great stuff that Global Check does for the merchants. So this is the demo account, and like I said, on your own time, go in there and play around with it and try to become familiar with it. Okay, moving on. All right, so now we're going to move on to the Platinum program. This is Secure Payment Systems Payday Express Plus, no income check with point of sale terminal. There's a lot of differences between this program and the Global Check program, and I'm going to go over this with you in pretty good detail. This is an in-house payment option for sales up to $5,000 or more on a case-by-case basis. And I'm going to show you in a second, what determines the lending limit. But basically, The lending limit is tied to the merchant. It's not tied to the customer. So a merchant gets approved for certain lending limits based on what their needs are and what their capabilities are. Merchant receives 100% of the sale up front. There's either if it's approved, it's they get the money advanced. There's no two-step process like with the Global Check program. The terms can either be 3, 6, or 12 months. That's the consumer's option. The cost to the customer is 9.95 to 30.95 in most cases, depending on the term. Lower rates for shorter terms, higher rates for the longer terms, and also depending on the type of business it is. And I'll show you that in a second as well. The down payment at the time of approval is 25% of the amount financed, which includes all the customer costs. Now, just like with the other program, the merchant doesn't have to pass the cost on to the customer. Almost all of them do, but the merchant can absorb it or absorb some of it if that's what they need to make a sale. And this is applicable particularly if there's a business that does a lot of sales, a lot of promotions. They may decide not to do it for people that need this financing, just absorb the cost of the financing so they can say 0% financing, or same as cash, that type of thing. So it's really their option as far as how they structure it, and we'll train them fully on that. Um, with this program, any portion of the sale can be financed. So as I mentioned with the other program, it's got the financing amount has to be the entire sale. With this program, it can be a supplement. So if somebody can use a credit card for part of their sale and supplement it with this program, or do Care Credit or GE or Wells Fargo, and then if they don't have enough, use this program. It gives them a lot of flexibility. And this is very important. It comes up more than you may think. Um, Customer completes a simple application, and once they get the application, let me show you the application now for a second. Okay, as you can see, this is a simple application, and this is the information down here that the customer's got to fill out. 7 lines, 7 simple lines, right there. So the customer completes that application. Once the merchant has that application, they call it in to the lender. They get the decision in about 5 or 6 minutes, and the documents are submitted through the terminal and check imager. Now, I'm about to show you, with this program, there's very little documentation. There's no pay stub required, no bank statement required. The only thing that's required is the first check, that deposit check, and a photo ID. Beyond that, there's no other documentation, so it's a lot easier for the merchant to process these applications. The business receives 100% of the invoice without a discount within 3 business days. And the simple process for the business to make off location. So if you're dealing with businesses that have that may be probably more in the home services business, they may have to do an estimate based on an inspection of someone's home. This program is ideal for that because the approval can be done from anywhere. It can be called in from someone's home in a matter of 5 or 6 minutes. They know whether there's an approval or a denial, and they know that the money is secured for them. So this is ideal for those type of businesses. But let me show you what the critical aspects. So the first step, as far as the merchant is concerned, is giving the consumer options as far as what their payment options will be. So I want to show you. We provide every merchant with a calculator of how to calculate the costs. So let me show you that now. Hold on one second. Okay, this is a simple Excel spreadsheet. We give this to every merchant. We also make this available to you in the back office that I showed you before. But this is something that you should become familiar with because it's very important. This is what the first thing the merchant will do when they have a customer, and the customer has indicated they want the financing. The merchant will go to their calculator, and they'll put the transaction in, and a little bit slow, but it comes up, and it basically breaks down the deal for the customer. So in this scenario, let's say it's a 60-day deal. The first payment is $367.44, and then after that there'll be 6 equal payments of $183.72. So the customer knows exactly what the deal is. The merchant knows how to present it to them. We make it very, very easy. Everything is in here. The interest rates, it's actually warranty rates, the costs, so it breaks it down for the customer so the customer can make it very easy a decision. But this calculator is in the back office. We give you access to it to play around with it. We also present it to every merchant that signs up. So, and we train them on how to use this. But this is really the first big step. So the other thing I also want to show you is I want to show you how we determine the lending limits, as for the merchants. Okay, let's go over to lending limits. Okay, I hope you could see this is a little bit small, so I had to increase the size of it. But there's a few different criteria. First of all, um, the the lending limit is based on what the merchant needs, not on the customer. So a merchant will get approved for one of 5 different lending limits: $1,500, $2,000, $2,500, $3,000, and $5,000. Now, this is includes the costs, so it's not the ticket; it's what the amount is after the merchant puts all the cost into the financing. So, and we also can go above 5,000, but it still falls into the same category. But we've gotten merchants approved for as much as $7,500, which will cover them on the tickets up to $5,000. So it's important that you give a merchant only what they need, because as you'll see that the costs go up to both the merchant and the customer. If they take a higher amount and don't actually need it. So if you're dealing with an auto repair shop, for instance, most auto repair shops don't need $5,000. They can get away with $3,000. But let me just give you an example. And also on the left, the other determination is there's a list of the different business types. So you'll see the top section is auto repair. This is also the general section. So if there's a category that's not listed here, you can put them into this section. And there's other categories here as well. So looking at the $2,500 limit. So let's assume it's an auto repair shop that needs a $2,500 limit. So you go across the $2,500. The lending limit is $2,500 per customer. So it's not per month, not per week. It's on a per customer basis, whether they do one customer or 1,000 customers. The warranty rate, which is passed on to the customer, is 11.95 for 3 months, 17.95 for 6 months, and 27.95 for 12 months. There's also a monthly minimum usage fee. So if they don't do any transactions during the course of a month, the fee will be, in this case, $50. As you'll see, it varies from $35 up to $100 per month, depending on what the needs of the merchant are. So, that's why it's important to match up the merchant with the kind of limit that they actually need. So, this sheet is not intended for you to hand out to a merchant, but you should print it out from the back office and have it with you, because you'll need to reference it in order to know how to present an opportunity to a merchant. Okay. Um, okay, so here's the criteria for getting a customer approved. Proof of an acceptable checking account. Checking account has to be in good standing with no history of bounces or overdrafts in the past 90 days. Must have initial deposit amount in the account at time of application. And a government issued ID, a driver's license. So this is all on the consumer side. So why will customers get turned down? Okay, because and the main difference between this program and Global Check, is that while Global Check does very little due diligence on the business side, they do a lot of due diligence on the customer side. I mean, they ask for pay stubs, they ask for bank statements, so they're going to scrutinize very hard on the customer side. The opposite is true with secure payment systems, SPS. SPS does their due diligence on the merchant side. They're gonna check that merchant out, make sure it's a solid business. They can actually turn down a merchant, or they'll ask for a reserve if the merchant is not strong enough. So, they want to make sure they have a solid partner. And one of the reasons for that is the process is very easy on the customer side, which leaves them vulnerable to fraud and vulnerable to stuffing people in that shouldn't necessarily get packages, get loans through. So they're going to do the high due diligence on the merchant side. On the customer side, there's very little due diligence. But what the reasons that the major reasons that a consumer will get turned down is they don't have that initial money in the bank account at the time of the application. Um, Now, this is not a no credit check. It's a no credit score based program, and also they don't pull credit reports on all they pull credit reports on about 50% of the time. But what they're looking for when on these customers, they're looking for a recent payback trend. So if they can look at somebody's checking account and see that money's flowing in and money's flowing out, and they're paying utilities or whatever it is, that rent, or whatever it is that they're paying, that's a customer they like. If they look at the checking account, there's not much activity. They may pull a credit report just to see if they can determine that what's been going on lately. So they don't care if there's a foreclosure, if there's a bankruptcy, if there's a repossession, but they may care if somebody has credit cards that they're 90 days behind on now, because that's an indication that their cash flow is in trouble, that they don't have the that they're going to default on this as well, because no lender wants to be a victim of default, so they're going to do whatever risk assessment that they have to do. But it's important that we're they're looking for solid citizens that may have had a rough spot, that are capable of paying now. So that's the kind of thing that they're looking for. The approval rating with this program is very high. As a matter of fact, it's higher than the Global Check approval rating, although it's hard to approve with Global Check because a lot of people will be disqualified because of income before the application actually is put through. Remember, with this program, with the Platinum plan, there's no income check, no pay stub is required, there's no bank statement. It's a much easier process for the merchant, but there still is a process. So here are the costs to the merchant for the Platinum program. There's an initial one-time setup fee. Once again, check the back office. We have the suggested pricing there, depending on your situation. You could set your own pricing in most cases, but check there. There's also $195 lender setup fee. That's what SPS gets. There's a $5 per month statement fee. There's a minimum usage fee, as I showed you before, but keep in mind, if the merchant is qualified properly and if they use this program, this fee does not apply to them. So the merchant that really buys into this and uses this program, there's no minimum usage fee. If they don't do a deal during the course of a month, and it's usually any amount. If it's a $300 or $500 deal, that usually will cover the minimum usage fee. There's a $95 annual fee starting in month 13, so that the $195 actually includes the annual fee, but it's also a setup fee. And starting in year 2, there's a $95 annual fee. There's also an optional one-time $29.95 pre-authorization addendum. Now, when I sign up my businesses, I don't make this optional because this is a very important feature. This allows the merchant to have up to 7 days to put through the transaction after the approval. So think about that situation where somebody's in someone's home and they do an estimate. They may want to do the approval right there and then, know they have the money locked up, and then it may take a few days, depending on the actual cost and parts or whatever, for them to know the actual amount. With this $29.95 pre-authorization addendum, the merchant has up to 7 days, plus they can change the amount. So it gives them a lot of flexibility. Just to give you an idea, with Global Check, the transaction has to be done within 24 hours. So this program offers more real life flexibility for the merchants. So the merchant approval process for the Platinum plan is it's more complex than with Global Check. Okay, there's two ways to go. What we suggest is we've developed a concierge application. The actual application that the lender receives is about a 7-page document, and it's pretty complex. And for if you're just starting out, it may be something you may not want to worry about. So we've prepared a concierge application, and let me just show you that. Okay, so what we've done is we've taken all the information from the application and put it onto a simple couple-page form for you to complete for us. So if you do this concierge application, it becomes a two-step process, but at least you'll know it's going to be done right. And what we're going to do is we'll take that concierge application and we'll actually put all the, type up all the information onto the actual application and have it ready for you. So you just have to present it to the merchant for signatures. You don't have to worry about handwriting and all that other stuff. We're going to make sure it's done properly. Um, the If it's a lease, also the same thing. That concierge application covers both the lender application and a lease if you decide to go if you decide to go with leasing. Once it's done, we present it back to you with with uh, the actual applications ready for signature. You get them executed, you submit it back to BCMS, most likely Vicky, and we'll process it through and deal with the lender for you. Once the approval is made, we'll get you or the merchant the equipment to get set up. The approvals usually take about 5 days for the merchant. Like you said, SPS does due diligence on the merchants. They'll actually, part of on the application they ask for business references. They'll actually call the business references. They want to make sure they're dealing with real business. They're going to require a most recent bank statement, and and the criteria is they want to see a business. Probably it has to be in business for about 6 months. What they're looking for in the bank statement is the ending balance should at least be equal to or exceed the amount that they're asking for on a per customer basis. So if they're asking for $5,000 and you submit a business that only has $1,000 with an ending balance, they probably won't turn the business down, but what they're going to do is they're going to ask for a reserve account. So, if you when you submit the concierge application, submit it with the recent bank statements. We could take a look at it and give you an idea as to whether or not this merchant's going to be able to get through without the reserve account. Most of the time the answer is yes. I mean, the reserve account happens a very small percentage of the time. It does happen, but if you submit that concierge application with the bank statement, we'll give you a very good idea of whether it's going to make it through. The Platinum Plus plan is basically just the Gold and the Platinum plan bundled together for the merchant, and I like this way of going because this is it gives the merchant two bites at the apple, and when you look at the pricing, you'll see there's not much of a price difference between the two programs. Between just taking one of the programs, the Platinum program, let's say, and adding the Gold program to it. So it gives the merchant two opportunities. It also gives them the ability to package things a little bit more creatively. So this is the Platinum Plus is just a combination of the two programs. So what kind of businesses can this be done for? Literally dozens of verticals, and I just listed some of the big ones here. Some of the big ones are auto repair, anything in the health field, from veterinarians to dentists to cosmetic surgeons, doctors, whatever. Anything in retail, anything in the home services. There's a lot of different verticals that this works for, and more than be creative, because for instance, one I wouldn't think of that recently was brought to my attention was pet stores. I would say, pet stores aren't, most people buy small stuff, but people that buy, let's say, a dog or a cat, what these pet stores are doing is they're selling the animal, plus they're putting together a food package and a treatment package, and bundling it for, a year's worth, and then using the financing to allow the consumer to pay over time. So you can get very creative, particularly with the SPS program. SPS program is not as stringent when it comes to the transaction as the Global Check program is. So, you could be very, very creative here in putting together deals. So there's a few restricted businesses, and there aren't a lot of them. I mean, there's not a lot of categories. Travel, hospitality, jewelry, pawn shops, selected used car dealers, bankruptcy attorneys, also anybody in the debt business or loan modification business, that kind of thing. If you're not sure, ask me, and I'll try to. If I don't know the answer, and believe me, there's times I don't know the answer still, I'll find the answer out for you. So who are you dealing with? So if you've been dealing with bank certified merchant service, you know about them. But if you're not, if you're new to us, They were formed over 2 decades ago. They're a leader in the merchant services industry with over $220 million a month in processing transactions. They were accredited with the Better Business Bureau A+ rating. So they're a real, BCMS is a great company, to work with. We're going to be there for you, and we get the best deals out there because of our clout. And the two lenders, okay, you got Global Check, which was founded in 1994. They actually patent that gold program. They patent that process in 2005. They have an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau. Secure Payment Systems was founded in 1997. The founder, Lynn Fellerman, was a big shot at equity at Equifax. Is actually was involved in developing Check 21, A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau. Global Check has been around the longest in this field. Okay, SPS changed this industry, and the reason I'm here and the reason you're on this call is because of what SPS did. Up until about a year ago, the standard for this field was there were 90-day programs up to $1,500, and you probably saw them on furniture store windows and that kind of thing. SPS changed the landscape by they came out and they first were in that category for a while. They've been in there for quite a few years, but about a year ago they said we're going to change things, and what they did was they took their $1,500, moved it out to $5,000. They took that 90-day and moved it out to a year. So it brought in a lot of other businesses into the fold, and Global Check followed suit by making their program more aggressive as well. But what the move SPS made about a year ago is really what is transforming this whole industry and making it a lot more lucrative for both us and the merchants. So here's the way merchants can maximize, and I spoke about some of this already. Reach customers through in-store signs. We provide the merchants with signs. So when you sign up a merchant, we're going to give them a sign that they can hang up in the store as well as collateral material. They present to any customer in the sales process as a way of making a purchase, and that's the most important thing. If they never present this to the customer, they're not going to do it. So they have to be comfortable with it and reach out to customers in the process. Use as a way to collect accounts receivable, as I mentioned earlier. Make mention in all advertising and marketing. Issue press releases. Any way you can let the community know that you have this program and that you are willing to reach out to more customers, you should do it, and a press release is a great way of doing it. Reach out to previous customers. A lot of times people stop coming back to a business because of money issues. Reach out to people that have not been back in a while, and this is a great way to do it. Make mention in social media. A lot of businesses have Facebook pages these days. Let your customers know that you have this. Price individual products offering in-house payment plans. Both as a way of offering 0% financing to customers, or just as a different way of buying. So if you're selling bicycles, for instance, give the customer the option. The bicycle for one pay is this price, or you can finance it for this much down and this much per month. It really can make a difference, because customers these days, and forever really, will buy more on what they can afford right now, and a lot of times it's not the full price. It's they could afford the down payment, then they could build the rest into their budget. So how do you reach merchants? And many of you are doing this already, but in case you're not and you're just starting out, if you're in the credit card processing business, reach out to your merchants. They need this program. Reach out to them. They're already your customer. Network. Look in meetups, meetup.com for chamber events or other, could be free or minimal cost networking opportunities. Ask friends and family to introduce you to people they do business with. Contact businesses that advertise locally. Pull out the local newspapers and local circulars. If it's suitable businesses are advertising and they're not presenting financing there, that's your opportunity to go in there and try to show them how you're going to solve a problem that they know exists or may not be aware exists. Cold call businesses, set up appointments. That's the old-fashioned way, and it still works. Just make the phone call. We have scripts and things like that in the back office. Get in your car and cold visit businesses. Promote on your social media platforms. If you're on Facebook, let people know you're in this business, because they may be in that situation, or they may have a business or know of a business that can use your product. Contact businesses that advertise on Craigslist. Now, Craigslist has business categories, so go in there and find those businesses and contact them. Um, Advertise in those sections yourself. Those businesses are looking in there as are their customers. So go in there. The advertising is free. Go in there and do it. You could send out mailings. There's a lot of different ways to reach out to prospective merchants. And this is my contact information. If you have any questions on the process and the training, give me a call. My job here um, is to help you make sales. So whatever it takes, whether it's putting together a proposal for you to present to a merchant, or whether it's helping you close a sale, whatever you need to do, reach out to me, okay? And I could help you with that. We're also working on other products as well, just to keep and depending on when you're looking at this, it may exist or it may not. But we're working on a program that will take the merchant out of the loop as far as having to deal with the customers. A lot of merchants don't want to be finance people. They don't want to have to deal with the consumers and telling them they're being turned down, collecting their documents. So we're in the process of developing a program where we're going to do that for them. So, once we have that up, there'll be another video either added to this one or replacing this one. So if you're listening to this, we don't have that program yet. Chances are where we'll be able to be the virtual financing manager. We're also going to be adding other programs in addition to the Check 180 financing, credit-based programs as well. So we're here to support you, and the idea is you're there to solve merchants' problems, and we want to help. We want to help you solve those problems. So, that's our goal. So, once again, if you have any questions, this is my contact information. Please feel free to reach out to me. Best way is email, because I'll get back to you as quickly as I possibly can, but you can also call me as well. And I wish you success, and thank you very much for joining us.